Picture this. You're standing in the supplement aisle of your local pharmacy, right?
Oh, yeah, we've all been there, staring at the wall of bottles.
Exactly. And you're holding this $30 bottle of, like, giant golden fish oil pills. The label is just covered in buzzwords: maximum strength, heart health, triple distilled.
Triple distilled, yeah. It always sounds so official.
Right. So you toss it in your basket, fully convinced that you just bought this shortcut to optimal biology. But what if a self-described software plumber could actually prove, mathematically and biologically, that you were just downloading an overpriced, inferior software patch for a fundamentally broken diet?
I mean, it is the ultimate human instinct, isn't it? When we're faced with a complex system failure, we don't want to go in and fix it.
We just want the quick fix.
Exactly. Rather than going into the messy underlying code of our daily habits to rewrite them, we just look for the quickest possible patch to mask the symptom.
Which brings us to today's deep dive into a really brilliant piece of source material. We are looking at a blog called qianmeng.org, written by a fascinating guy named Ang.
Yeah, he's an old school programmer who basically spends his time tinkering with free and open source software.
But he doesn't just debug code, which is the cool part. He meticulously logs and debugs his entire life, from like gardening to fish keeping, and crucially for us today, his diet.
His archival system is genuinely something to behold. I mean, he treats his biological inputs with the exact same rigor he'd apply to a massive software architecture project.
Totally. So we are focusing specifically on his Notes on Dieting, Part 116. And our mission today is to explore a really fundamental dietary question he raises. Like, why is eating the actual physical whole fish vastly superior to popping that isolated fish oil supplement?
Right. And more broadly, how do we systematically upgrade our diets using that analytical open source programming mindset?
Because the way he frames this, it forces you to look at your daily consumption, not as just, random cravings.
Yeah, they are inputs yielding specific physiological outputs.
Exactly. But before we get into the grocery store logistics of, like, what fish to buy, we have to look at the psychological trap that Ang identifies. It's the trap that sends you to that pharmacy aisle in the first place.
The visual bias trap.
Yes. He observes that our preference for fish oil pills is heavily rooted in this visual bias. We associate the sterile gelatin capsule with medicine.
Because we've been conditioned to believe that health comes from a laboratory, you know? A pill feels like a precise pharmaceutical intervention.
You feel like you're doing something proactive.
Right. But from a biological standpoint, the whole fish is actually nature's original, fully optimized prescription. The natural whole food contains this complex matrix that a manufacturing plant simply cannot replicate.
Wait, by complex matrix, you mean like the nutrient isn't just floating around by itself in nature?
Exactly the opposite. When you consume fish oil that's been isolated in a capsule, you are missing out on the phospholipids, the specific proteins, and the essential cofactors.
Like selenium and vitamin D.
Yeah, all the stuff that naturally occurs in the fish muscle. Your digestive system evolved over millions of years to break down and absorb that specific bundle of nutrients simultaneously.
Oh, so it's a package deal.
It really is.
Yeah.
So when you strip the oil out and stick it in a gelatin shell, your body actually struggles to synthesize it as efficiently.
Huh.
And furthermore, there's a massive quality control issue with processed supplements. Polyunsaturated fats are highly unstable.
Meaning they go bad quickly.
Very quickly. By the time that clear capsule actually reaches your stomach, there is a significant risk that the oil inside has oxidized.
Oh, gross. Meaning it's essentially gone rancid.
Exactly. You're swallowing rancid oil.
Yikes. Okay, let's unpack this. Are there A and Y valid reasons to stick to the pills? Because I'm thinking of the listener who might be staring at a giant wholesale tub of omega-3 supplements on their kitchen counter, feeling a little defensive right now.
Which is totally fair.
Right. So is Ang just unilaterally banishing all supplements from the human diet?
No, not at all. He is a pragmatist at heart, which is what makes his analysis so useful. A good programmer knows there are always edge cases.
Okay, good.
And he outlines 3 very specific scenarios where the whole food approach just isn't viable. The first is a sensory aversion.
Like if you just hate fish.
Right. If the smell, texture, or taste of fish makes you gag, You simply aren't going to build a sustainable, lifelong habit around eating it. The behavioral friction is just too high.
You can't optimize a system if the user refuses to run the program.
Beautifully put, yes.
Yes.
The second exception is geographical.
Food deserts, that kind of thing.
Exactly. If you live in a landlocked region where access to fresh, high-quality seafood is either non-existent or just prohibitively expensive, a supplement acts as a necessary bridge. You still need those baseline nutrients.
Makes sense. And the third exception.
The medical directive. If a physician has explicitly prescribed a medical-grade fish oil, you follow that protocol.
Wait, what makes something medical grade compared to the giant tub of pills I buy at the wholesale club? I mean, isn't it all just squeezed fish juice?
No, not at all. A prescribed medication like icosapent ethyl, or IPE, is a highly purified synthetic derivative of an omega-3 fatty acid.
Oh, so it's actually made in a lab.
Yes. It's synthesized in a lab to target severe cardiovascular conditions like dangerous levels of triglycerides in the blood.
Gotcha.
And it goes through rigorous FDA regulation to ensure molecular stability and exact dosing.
Unlike the over-the-counter stuff.
Right. Over-the-counter supplements are largely unregulated and vary wildly in their actual chemical makeup.
Which goes back to the rancid oil problem.
Exactly. But for the general population just trying to maintain baseline cellular health, the default should always be the whole food. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what Ang is really advocating for here is a massive paradigm shift.
Moving away from the pharmacy.
Yes, it is about moving our concept of health away from a sterile medicinal transaction, swallowing a pill to check an arbitrary box, and returning to a natural, holistic process. He wants us to treat food as the primary, most powerful medicine available to us.
I love that. That reframing really takes the power away from the massive supplement industry and puts it right back onto your cutting board.
It empowers the individual, yeah.
So the directive is to eat the actual whole fish. But my brain immediately goes to the practical application here. What are the actual parameters of this biological patch? Like, how much are we supposed to eat to get these baseline anti-inflammatory benefits?
The consensus across established global health literature is surprisingly straightforward, and Ang uses this as his baseline metric. You need to consume 2 portions of fish per week.
Okay, 2 portions.
Mm.
But not just any fish. There is a specific requirement for the type of fish, right?
Yes, the crucial caveat is that at least one of those 2 portions needs to be oily fish.
Oily fish?
Yeah.
Okay, but unless you are a marine biologist, standing in front of a giant wall of crushed ice at the seafood counter can be incredibly intimidating. How is the average person supposed to look at a fish and know its internal fat composition?
Ang offers a beautifully simple visual heuristic for this. You just look at the color of the flesh.
The color.
Yeah. Oily fish store their fat within their muscle tissue, which requires a rich vascular system and high amounts of myoglobin to carry oxygen.
Okay, biological terms. What does that mean for my eyes at the store?
It means this biological structure translates visually to a darker, much more vibrant pink or red color in the meat.
Ah, so a vibrant deep color is your visual indicator of an omega-3 powerhouse.
Yes, exactly. Whereas leaner species, the non-oily fish, they store most of their fat in their liver, not their muscles.
Oh, interesting.
Consequently, their flesh remains generally white and translucent.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a very reliable, quick visual sorting mechanism.
Man, I love a good heuristic. Vibrant means oily, white means lean. So simple. Now let's talk about the math of the portions, because Ang uses a palm-sized rule to quantify this, which I think is vital.
It really is.
Because no one wants to bust out a digital kitchen scale and weigh a wet piece of fish every time they make dinner,
Right. The palm-size rule perfectly bridges the gap between clinical data and practical cooking. A standard portion is roughly 140 grams, cooked weight.
And what does that look like?
For the average adult, 140 grams maps almost perfectly to the size and thickness of the palm of your hand, excluding the fingers.
So the weekly quota is 2 portions. You just double that single palm.
Exactly.
You are aiming for a weekly target of around 280 grams of fish, with at least half of that being the vibrant, oily variety. But Ang doesn't just give you a volume target, right? He dictates how to input that volume over time.
Yeah, he advises against just eating a giant 280-gram slab of fish on a Sunday night and calling it good for the week.
Which is probably what I would try to do, just get it over with.
Most people would, but the scheduling of the input is just as important as the volume. He strongly recommends dividing that 280 grams across 2 separate days.
Like a Tuesday and a Friday.
Yeah. Exactly.
But why does the timeline matter if the total volume at the end of the week is exactly the same?
Because of how human cellular absorption works.
Yeah.
Your body is constantly synthesizing nutrients to repair cell membranes and manage inflammation. If you flood the system with 280 grams of complex proteins and fats in a single sitting, your digestive enzymes and transport mechanisms just hit a saturation point.
The bottleneck.
Exactly. The body simply cannot utilize all of that omega-3 at once, so it ends up burning the excess for basic energy or just storing it as regular fat.
Wow, what a waste.
It is, but by spacing the intake out over several days, you maintain a steady, highly bioavailable stream of nutrients in your bloodstream. That allows for optimal cellular repair without overwhelming the system.
So it's about maintaining a steady state rather than like spiking the system and letting it crash.
Precisely.
Okay, so the biological blueprint is clear. 280 grams, spaced out, vibrant flesh. But the reality of grocery shopping hits hard here because seafood is notoriously expensive. How do we actually implement this without completely draining our bank accounts?
Well, this is where Eng's background as an old software plumber really dictates his strategy.
He optimizes it.
Yes. He approaches the grocery store exactly like a resource management problem. The overriding rule he implements is to optimize for fish species that are affordable and low in mercury.
Which introduces what I like to call the salmon paradox. Because the moment someone says healthy, oily fish, the entire world instantly pictures a beautiful cut of salmon.
Oh, of course.
It has, like, the best marketing in the entire seafood industry.
Salmon is overwhelmingly the default choice for health-conscious consumers. But Eng points out a massive inefficiency when you actually run the numbers. He evaluates fish using a specific metric, the omega-3 content-to-price ratio.
See, here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at your dinner plate through an economic ratio is such a beautifully nerdy, engineer way to approach nutrition.
It strips away all the marketing and looks purely at the data. And under that metric, salmon actually underperforms.
Really?
Yeah. The resource cost, meaning the premium price you pay per kilogram, is disproportionately high compared to the biological output of omega-3s you actually absorb.
So if salmon is the bloated, expensive software, what is the sleek, open source alternative? Like, what are the underdogs beating salmon on this metric?
He highlights 3 highly economical local staples. First is mackerel, locally known as kembone.
Okay.
Second is sardines, or tamban. And third is anchovies, known as bilis.
Got it.
These species are incredibly cheap, widely available, and densely packed with the exact lipids we are looking for.
But the visual difference of what it takes to hit that 280-gram weekly target using these different fish is just wild.
Oh, the volume scaling is quite dramatic.
Yeah, because to hit 280 grams with our expensive friend salmon, you were eating about 1.5 to 2 standard fillets over the week, which sounds completely normal.
Standard dinner.
Right. But if you switch to the highly efficient mackerel, you have to eat 3 to 4 whole fish. And with sardines, because they are smaller, you were looking at 6 to 8 whole fish a week.
It's a lot of fish.
For someone used to a neat boneless fillet, staring down 8 whole fish sounds like a massive jump in prep work.
And it scales up even further when you look at the smallest option.
Oh my gosh, the anchovies. To hit the 280-gram weekly target strictly with anchovies, Eng calculates you need to consume 2 to 3 large bowls of them.
It's a striking visual.
I am just trying to picture a normal person sitting down on a Wednesday evening to eat a literal cereal bowl full of anchovies.
Well, what's fascinating here is that Eng isn't necessarily suggesting you eat a mountain of anchovies in one sitting.
Okay, good.
He is laying out the pure, unvarnished data. He evaluates the fish exactly the way a developer evaluates lines of code. He's seeking the most efficient way to achieve the desired output.
Which is the omega-3 saturation.
Right, with the lowest resource cost being the price. He is giving you the raw metrics so you can compile your own weekly meal plans.
So you can mix them up.
Exactly. Maybe you eat 1 mackerel on Tuesday and you sprinkle a handful of anchovies over your salads and soups throughout the rest of the week to hit that aggregate target.
You mix and match the biological inputs. That makes way more sense. Plus, there's another massive advantage to these smaller fish beyond just the price, right?
Yeah.
Eng mentions keeping the bug risk low.
Yes. The bug risk in this context is mercury accumulation. This involves the biological concept of trophic levels.
Which is the food chain.
Exactly. Mercury is a heavy metal that enters the ocean ecosystem and gets absorbed by microscopic algae. Small fish eat the algae, bigger fish eat the small fish, and so on.
It just stays in them.
Right, because mercury doesn't easily leave an animal's tissue, it biomagnifies. By the time you get to a massive apex predator, the mercury concentration is incredibly high.
Wow.
Salmon is decent because it's somewhat in the middle of the food chain, but mackerel, sardines, and anchovies are at the very bottom.
Because they're so small.
They have incredibly short lifespans and feed on plankton, meaning they accumulate almost zero mercury. They are the cleanest possible biological input.
Okay, so we want the affordable, clean, small fish. But let's look at the friction of modern life here. Buying, cleaning, and cooking 8 whole sardines a week is a really high barrier to entry.
It is.
Most people will instinctively look for a shortcut to bypass the prep work, which usually means walking down the canned food aisle. They see a tin of sardines for $2, already cooked, lasting for years in the pantry.
And Eng explicitly acknowledges this reality. He notes that canned mackerel and sardines are highly practical alternatives if you lack the time or the energy to cook from scratch.
But there's a catch, isn't there?
A huge one. Opting for that convenience introduces a severe hidden danger that most consumers completely miss.
The convenience always comes with a hidden cost. So what is the trap in the canned aisle?
When you outsource the preparation to a massive food processing company, you lose control over the inputs. You must rigorously audit the labels on those cans for added sugars, excess sodium, and most critically, the type of oil the fish is preserved in. Yes. Many brands use cheap, highly refined vegetable oils like soybean or sunflower oil.
But wait, if the fish inside the can is healthy, why does the oil it's floating in matter so much?
Because it creates a direct physiological conflict within your body. Those cheap vegetable oils are exceedingly high in omega-6 fatty acids.
I thought we were trying to get omega fats.
We need both, but the modern diet is wildly skewed. The problem is enzymatic competition.
Okay, enzymatic competition. Walk me through that.
Think of it like a game of molecular musical chairs. Your body only has a finite amount of the specific enzymes, like delta-6 desaturase, required to process these fatty acids.
Right.
If you flood your system with a massive dose of cheap omega-6 from the vegetable oil, those molecules rush in and steal all the enzymatic chairs.
Oh, so the high-quality omega-3s from the fish have nowhere to sit.
Precisely. They cannot be converted into their active anti-inflammatory forms.
That's crazy.
Instead, they just get flushed out or stored as inert fat, while the massive overload of omega-6 actively drives systemic inflammation across your cellular structures.
That is maddening. I mean, it's like installing a state-of-the-art security system in your house, but leaving the front door wide open. You are buying the fish specifically to reduce inflammation, but the oil it's packaged in completely hijacks your biochemistry and causes inflammation.
It completely cancels it out.
You are doing all of this dietary work for absolutely zero physiological payoff.
This raises an important question for all of us regarding how we interact with modern food systems. It proves that the processing required to make a food convenient can biologically neutralize the very health benefits you are paying for.
It's a total illusion of health.
You think you are purchasing an upgrade for your body, but you are actually installing a program that actively works against your system.
Unbelievable. And while we are navigating the canned aisle, we have to talk about the most popular canned fish on the planet.
Tuna.
Yep. If someone is listening and thinking, okay, I'll just grab a few cans of tuna in water to avoid the vegetable oil, Aang throws a massive red flag on that idea.
A very necessary red flag. Yeah. Tuna is a convenient, low-fat protein, but if we return to the concept of trophic levels and bioaccumulation...
The food chain stuff.
Right. Tuna is a massive, long-living apex predator. It sits at the top of the oceanic food chain.
Meaning it has spent years eating smaller fish, accumulating all of their heavy metals into its own tissue.
Exactly. The mercury concentrations in canned tuna, particularly albacore, are significantly higher than in the smaller underdogs we discussed.
So it's full of bugs, to use Aang's phrasing.
Major bugs. Aang's protocol is unequivocal to optimize your system long-term. You must actively reduce your consumption of high-mercury species like tuna. Mercury is a neurotoxin. It is the ultimate systemic bug that you do not want accumulating in your hardware.
Wow. We have covered incredible ground today. We have dismantled the psychology of the pill fallacy, mapped out the biological blueprint of palm-sized portions and spaced-out timing, and we've navigated the omega-3 economics and the enzymatic warfare happening inside a cheap can of sardines.
It's a lot to process.
It is. So let's synthesize all of this data into a practical behavioral swap that the listener can deploy immediately. What's the takeaway?
Well, Aang leaves us with a brilliant, highly actionable habit adjustment that requires very little effort. If you find yourself craving salty, crunchy fast food or processed junk food late in the day,
Which is a deeply ingrained behavioral loop for most of us. I know.
yes, absolutely. But he suggests replacing that input with crunchy, dried anchovies.
B-list.
Yes, it perfectly hacks that primal craving for salt and crunch. But instead of flooding your system with empty carbohydrates and inflammatory seed oils, you are directly inputting the precise, high-quality, complex matrix of nutrients needed to hit your weekly baseline.
That's so smart.
It's a tiny behavioral tweak that yields a compounding biological payoff over time.
So what does this all mean? If we pull back and look at the entirety of Aang's Part 116 dietary log, the unifying truth is that natural biological packaging is vastly superior to human engineering.
Without a doubt.
Whether our human packaging is a shiny pharmaceutical capsule that strips away necessary cofactors, or a convenient tin can filled with inflammatory oils, we simply cannot out-engineer the raw, synergistic efficiency of a whole food.
And recognizing that limitation is the very first step toward genuine physical optimization.
Which brings me to a final thought I want you, the listener, to mull over today.
Right.
Because the author of this source material, Aang, is a software plumber, right?
Right.
If you look closely at his website, this rigorous analysis of omega-3 economics is titled Part 116 of his Notes on Dieting. But right alongside it, he has Part 836 on gardening. He has Part 208 on fish keeping.
He's incredibly thorough.
He documents his programming in complex languages like Elixir and Haskell with the exact same meticulous numbering system.
He records every variable, tests every input, and analyzes every resulting output without any emotional bias.
And what if we approached our own biology with that exact same open source debugging mindset? Instead of blindly trusting the marketing label on a supplement bottle or downloading a pharmaceutical quick patch to mask a symptom, what if you started tracking and refining your actual real-world inputs?
It's a powerful shift.
What if you treated your own body with the exact same reverence, curiosity, and analytical precision that a master programmer uses to refine a vital piece of software?
It changes your entire relationship with your health. You stop being a passive consumer hoping for a quick fix, and you step into the role of the lead developer of your own biology.
The code is entirely yours to write. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the defaults, keep debugging your inputs, and we will catch you next time.